video on, well, basically comparing these two knives. And I'll tell you right off the bat, I cut my finger, and I'll get to why in a minute, but basically it reaffirms my belief in these designs and why I think they're much better than some other knife designs out there. Originally, I wanted to review this knife or compare it because there were a few reviews out there for the SOG Visionary, and they compared it to an Endura, and some people complained saying that wasn't a fair review because the Endura is a less expensive knife than this by give or take a little, maybe a half the price for an Endura. So this isn't a cheap knife. It's around the $100 mark, between $100 and $110, and the same thing goes for the Paramilitary 2. So that is one of the comparisons that was more anticipated, I guess, than the SOG versus the Endura. So anyway, here they are. I've got, of course, the SOG Visionary 2, which only comes in one variation. There's a smaller model though, so don't get confused about that. And then there's the Paramilitary 2 in black. So I don't know. I liked the idea of comparing black on black, so that's why I got the black model. Some specs real quick. I'll just list them in the video. I won't even bother wasting time talking about it. But basically, they are the same size knife, same principles. They give a couple different features, but you know, I'm gonna go through those. Most of them you can see already. I might not even need to talk about it, but in my experience with these two knives, it is very different. So let's get right into it. I'll just put your mind at rest and tell you what happened with this. It was playing with this thing here, and as you can see, it's a liner lock. Now this is what I said in the intro. A liner lock versus one of these, in my opinion, there's no contest. This one will win for safety, as is evident. Basically, I closed this knife like this. I had my finger, I think, like, well, you can imagine it curled over like that, and I closed it with my thumb like that. My finger was there, probably disengaging the liner lock, as I'm a lefty. So that's what happened. Cut a chunk clean off of my finger. I might roll in a picture if I've got the time, but that's those are liner locks for you. They're not as safe. Now with these designs, disengaging the lock, it keeps your fingers out of the way of the blade. So you can shake this knife closed if you want. I'm kind of gimped right now, but you can do it. It takes a bit of wearing in for a newer knife like this. With the compression lock on the Spyderco, instead of having the liner on the edge side of the blade, it's on the spine side of the blade, and it rotates away from your fingers. As long as these fingers are not curled in there like that, and they're on the side of the handle there, then you're good to go. So these designs are, in my opinion, much better, much safer than a liner lock. I especially like the axis lock or the arc lock on this knife because it's ambidextrous, and I can use it with my left hand. I'm not going to, but it's completely ambidextrous. You can use all the features on this knife with both hands equally. With this knife, not so much. It's more of a right hand design. You disengage the lock with your index finger while having a good firm grip with the thumb and the palm there, and then your fingers. So it's a very, very safe design. in my opinion, it's not as ergonomic for a lefty like me as the arc lock. So those are the locks. Of course, one big difference on these blades is the blade shape. Spyderco is known for their drop point slash leaf point or leaf blade shape. And especially recently, they've been doing a lot of full flat grind knives, and it just varies from user to user. I don't mind the saber grinds like on this one, or even with another knife very similar to these two is the Mannix 2 black version. That's a saber grind, but it's hollow, so take that for what it's worth. I like the grinds on both the knives. I've had more experience with this one just because I've had it longer and I like it more. But this grind I like. The recurve I find does add to the cutting power of this knife. It is harder to sharpen, but you know, there are ways around that, and it's not that big of a deal to me. So for the little bit of sharpening issues, I'll take the recurve. I just find this little portion here does help a lot in when it's sharp in cutting packages like boxes or tape on boxes. Whereas with a knife like this, you're limited to pretty much the tip for that. You can do more stuff with the recurve on this blade. So that's my opinion on that. Finishing up on the blades, the coatings are slightly different. This one wears a, I'm not exactly sure what type of coating. I think it's just a black powder coat. But in my experience, it is superb. The main thing I like about it is extremely easy to clean. If there's gunk on the blade like tape or glue or whatever, it's easy to clean off. You just, you know, rub it off with one hand, one finger, whatever. Comes off real nice. With this one, I don't have a lot of experience, but I do tend to notice, or I notice that it has a tendency to collect more oil easier. It shows up easier. You can see that there. It just collects, and it might not be as easy to clean off, but I think it's a more durable coating. This, of course, wears the diamond-like coating, and that's a very good coating on that. And then, of course, the blade steels are slightly different. This is a VG10 from Seki, Japan, and this is a CPM S30V. So you get a Japanese steel versus a American-made steel. I think, from what I've read, at least, the CPM steel is better. I haven't needed to sharpen this knife because I haven't really used it a lot. This knife holds up fine. I've had it for close to a year. Actually, 9 months, I think. And I've only needed to resharpen it a couple times. It's never gotten to the point where it's been really dull, though. I've let the edge maybe, or the tip rather, I've let the tip get a bit dull once in a while, but I'd sharpen the whole knife at once. So edge retention, I don't know. This one would probably do better, but it might be harder to sharpen. This is pretty easy to sharpen, and I like that. It takes a very nice edge, and it keeps it. It's also very rust resistant. I got some stuff on there several times, and it came right off. You might be able to see trace amounts of the material that was on there. I don't even know what it was. I think it was some sort of plant. I don't know, excretion. I used it for cutting plants, you know, like bushwhacking and stuff. And I think that stayed on there for a while, and I don't even notice it. So as for the stain resistance, it is very good. Real quick, I have a brand new SOG Visionary 2 here, and this one is basically the one that's staying in its packaging for me. But this is what it looks like brand new. The edge is super nice, very even grind, very nice tip. Let's see if my camera will focus on that. Very nice fine tip. It's fully, fully sharpened. On some knives you'll notice that just at the end here there's something not sharpened, or like on the Paramilitary 2 here, there's something blocking. You can see it. On some knives, not all of the blade is sharpened. Now, they did a pretty darn good job of getting as much as they can. But to me, I like the full blade being sharpened, and that is featured on the SOG Visionary 2. I like that very much. The powder coating holds up well. You can see this is 9 months old, and I'll kind of see if the light can show you the differences. Very minimal wear for that time period. The couple things that do wear a lot though are the thumb studs and the pocket clip, of course. The pocket clip is a no-brainer. Some of the hardware, the finishing is not the greatest either. But for me, the main thing was the thumb studs. Now, this one, right out of the box, when it was new, 9 months ago, the thumb stud coating wore off pretty much immediately. I think it was on the right side, so this one here. As soon as I deployed it the first few times, most of the coating on that side rubbed off. So they must use a different coating than on the blade, but it doesn't last long on the thumb studs, so that's one consideration. In terms of ergonomics, moving on to the handle, I like them both. Now, for me, at least, the carryability of a knife is more important to me than the in-hand ergonomics. Now, I like it when a knife gives both, but I think the SOG Visionary 2 does a better job in pocket than the Paramilitary 2, only because there's more material here. When it's folded, the blade sticks out a bunch because of the hole. The profile is just wider in general. The pocket clip is not as deep of a carry. And all that together, just based on that, makes me prefer this one. I like it in the pocket more. All of the weight basically on this knife is down here. There's very little weight towards the end here, so it's going to stay deep in your pocket very well. On this knife, it's more evenly balanced. There's most of the weight is still towards the pivot, but there's still a good amount of it over here towards the pocket clip. So it might have more of a tendency to come out of your pocket just because the weight is not as deep in your pocket. So I do like that about the Visionary 2. That's just, my experience. As for the handles, this is a plastic or Zytel, and this is G10. I much prefer the G10, I must admit it. It just feels nicer in hand. However, the plastic on the SOG Visionary 2 feels very similar to G10. They got the texturing pretty much perfect for plastic, and it feels like cheap G10. So that's a big plus. It kind of keeps the cost down for this knife. So, I don't mind it at all. The G10 is definitely nice. It's kind of squared, not as rounded as the Visionary, but the Visionary is hardly any better. It's just, let's see if I can get that there. It's just only slightly more rounded. So take that for what it's worth as well. Moving on to the weight. You can see there the Paramilitary 2 has steel liners. They are milled out. So this thing weighs like 3.7. Let's see, I got it here. No, 3.8 ounces or 3.9. So basically 4 ounces. This one is only slightly heavier at 4.2 ounces. So give or take some, it's like 0.4 ounce difference. I think that may be partly due to the fact that this is not milled out. Those are full stainless steel liners. So if they did mill it out, it might be around 3.8 ounces, same as this one. So, you know, if they could do that, that would be awesome. Just mill those out. It would, I don't think it would hurt the design too much. The thumb ramp on the blade and the jimping on the Visionary is good. Some knives get it better. Like this one has more jimping in more areas and more finger choils and blah blah blah. It's a very good design, very ergonomic. You can have various grips. You can choke up on the blade. You can choke back on the blade. You know, the natural grip is good. You can do reverse grip very well. It's got a nice rounded end here. But for me, none of that really matters. It's just the cutting. You know, this grip here is what I mostly use. And for me, this is adequate. It's got nice finger choils, not too deep and obnoxious. So that's right on. The thumb ramp, I think, is the nearly perfect. I can't really decide which one I would like more, this one or this one. Of course, with the larger thumb ramp on the Spyderco, you get a larger footprint in your pocket. With this one, it's not as large and obnoxious. You can see it's pretty slim, and it's far down on that side. On this one, it's a little bit wider, and it's further up. So I don't know. It's just a small thing to consider. Other than that, I mentioned the pocket clip. The both of them are reversible. This one can carry tip down as well. I don't really care. I prefer tip up, so both these knives are great for that. Like I said, I prefer the deeper carry on the SOG. It's a strong pocket clip. It's only mounted with one screw though. And there is a slight issue I find with the back spacer being plastic, and that is that because this pocket clip is mounted with one screw only, you will get play, and that play in turn kind of mucks up that spacer, and it just gets worse and worse as time goes on. With this, I don't think you'll have that problem. There's 3 strong screws mounted in the stainless steel liners, so I think the pocket clip on this will hold up just fine. This one might be a small issue. For me, 9 months of carry, I've carried this one the most out of any of my knives, and it's still holding up pretty well. You can see only a minor crack or bump from play, and that just results in a bit of up and down play. It still holds securely, so I'm not too worried. And besides, I've got another one as a backup, just in case. Fit and finish on both of them is superb. I have to admit, the Spyderco is better. I don't know, their attention to detail is a little bit more precise and professional. They've got flattened hardware, so it's flush with the handle. That's a nice attention. It's not all black in hardware. I kind of like that about this. It's all black. But you can see here these are kind of rounded, domed. So in that respect, fit and finish definitely goes to the Spyderco. Blade centering, pretty good. There's a slight issue again with the SOG Visionary. I don't mind it again because the coating is very good on this, but you can see there's some lines on the blade, and that is from the blade rubbing up against this side of the handle. And when it's in there, there's very little room for movement. So actually, when you deploy it on either side, really, for me it's the left side, so that's why you see it on that there. But when I push down on the left side with the thumb stud, I'm pushing the blade down towards that handle, and that's what's causing the wear. So it kind of rubs against the liner. You know, small consideration. That doesn't happen on this, I don't think. So, very minor thing. I don't mind it at all. Some people might. So, oh well. What can you do? That's pretty much it, the comparison. The prices, like I said at the beginning, are very similar. You might find either of them for cheaper than $100, but it's less than likely. I was very fortunate to pick this one up for a steal. It was on Amazon.ca for like $70, so I grabbed it at that time. This one I bought, you know, regular price about $100. So, yeah, definitely for this price, I definitely prefer this one, only because I bought it for $70. But if you were paying for it regularly, I'd still go with this one, to be honest. The main thing that attracted it to me was the look of it. I like the gold lettering on the blade, as well as the blade shape, and the handle shape was pretty attractive too. It had the reversible pocket clip, which I love, and it had an ambidextrous locking mechanism, which I also love, and ambidextrous thumb studs, blah blah blah. So the SOG Visionary 2 remains my favorite. This is close in terms of you know, overall appeal to me. I've flashed this one in front of the camera real quick too, and I think this one is very close as well. It's quite a bit heavier. It's got full stainless steel liners as well. It's got a huge blade that is saber ground, so that's going to add a lot of weight. It's just a big knife and heavy, so in that respect I still like it pretty close to the SOG. It's just the overall size of this is a little more uncomfortable to carry. So I highly recommend the Manix 2. One knife that I bought pretty close to the same time as I bought the SOG Visionary was the Benchmade 710. Now, I knew a guy at my previous workplace that owned one, and I got to play with it a little bit before I bought this one, and I liked it. He had a blackened version, which I wish I would have had, and it was in 154 cm steel, which I think would be better, only because it's not as brittle as D2, but D2 is good because it holds an edge like a mother. But it has the same features that I was looking for in the SOG. It's got the ambidextrous locking mechanism, ambidextrous thumb studs, reversible pocket clip, and it's a larger blade. It was kind of expensive though, around $150, so it's a bit more expensive, but it's a Benchmade. Let's see, what other ones are very similar? I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I might do a video on the smaller one, the SOG Visionary 1, and give some comparisons for that one. It's very much the same story. But anyway, that's the end of this video. It's gone on long enough. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. See you later.